Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. Now, I've personally lost over 100 pounds, and I've applied what I've learned from my own transformation journey to help my hometown clients lose over 35,000 pounds in just 5 years. Now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by delivering my best weekly tips, motivation, inspirational stories, and transformation strategies so that you can gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. And the perfect time to start taking action is right now. So let's do this. This episode is sponsored by you, my friends. I want to be able to keep cranking out 3 high-quality episodes each week, and I need your support to make that happen. Now, you can help support the show by becoming one of my Patreon patrons. Now, by pledging $1 a month, that's 8 cents an episode, and I'm going to earn it, by gosh. It's going to make a huge difference for both me and the show. If you pledge over $6 a month, you're going to get access to my Million Pound Mission live page where I do live follow-along workouts, live mobility sessions, live Q&A sessions, and even a few live podcast episodes. And all of your Patreon support dollars go directly towards paying for my new podcast production team. And they are the people that are helping me produce 3 high-quality episodes every week. Now, we need to raise around $500 a month to pay for those services. And you can check my Patreon page to see where our current monthly donation total is at. So it's all out there in the open. And it's kind of cool that you can see that build up. Now, currently, we're only at about $30 a month. So I do need your help. I'm going in the hole every single month, and I can't keep doing that. So if you can support the show, I'm going to earn that $1, all right? And to get more info on how you can support the show, just go to millionpoundmission.com, millionpoundmission.com, and click on the Support the Mission link at the top of the page. Your support is so important to me, and I'm very grateful, my friends. Thank you. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy, Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude. How you doing out there in podcast land? I'm fired up for this one. This one hits home for me. I think you're going to really enjoy it. This is episode number 131, Building a Super Brain with Evan DeMarco. Now, brain health specifically is a topic that really hits close to home for myself and my family because Alzheimer's disease is something that runs really strongly in my wife's family, and she and I are just doing everything we can. We're trying to learn as much as possible about optimizing the brain health of our entire family. So a couple of weeks ago, I was super psyched because I got introduced to one of the people that are really leading the charge in brain health. That's Evan DeMarco. Now, Evan is a sports medicine and nutrition expert. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's on all kinds of television and radio shows. And he's also a successful entrepreneur whose interest in diet, health, and supplements began as an athlete and consumer determined to improve an industry that was going through massive transformation. All right. Now, Evan works directly with many of the top research scientists and doctors in the country to build functional medicine platforms that combine the use of high-quality supplements with strategic and holistic approaches to treating illness and disease. Now, Evan and I really dive into some super interesting topics, really actionable topics, and we had a little bit of fun along the way. He's a pretty cool guy. So we talk about things like building a super brain, how to sort through all the confusion that's out there in the supplement industry, what's good, what's not good, what to look for. We talk about his specific advice for someone that wants to minimize their chances of having Alzheimer's disease. I really get specific with this with my wife's situation. Now, the next point, oh man, this is probably one of my top 3 moments in my podcasting history. So I have 131 episodes. This is definitely top 3. He talks about his tip for what you should be doing with the first 30 minutes of waking up. So within 30 minutes of waking up, what should you do specifically to improve your brain health? You're not going to believe what he says. I'll leave it at that. And then finally, we talk about the details of his amazing Alpha and Omega brain health platform. This one hits home. If you are somebody that's really interested in longevity and maximizing your quality of life, we're living so much longer. We're doing all these things to get healthy and lose weight and get stronger and maximize our lifespan. Let's make sure our brains are tuned up and ready for that longer journey. All right. So This is episode number 131, Building a Super Brain with Evan DeMarco. All right, Evan, welcome to the Million Pound Mission podcast. How are you doing today, my friend?
Dude, I am awesome. How you doing?
I am fired up. We've never had a guest with your specific type of knowledge, so I'm really, really excited because it's needed and it's going to be applicable to my own family, indeed. And we're going to get into that for a second here. So first, I want you to just introduce yourself a little bit to my audience and talk about how you became so interested in brain health.
Yeah, that's really an interesting story and kind of a fun one. We'll go back in time just a little bit. I kind of grew up, playing sports. Athletics were always just a key component of my life. So I was always really into health and wellness. And then went to college. Decided that I was going to be an investment banker. I had this vision of a 3-piece suit and, a corner office. And I did that for a couple of years and I hated every single day of it. It's just not making a difference. And so when I got out of that, I was really looking for something to, kind of bring me back into a world that I was passionate about and ended up, acquiring a sports nutrition company. And from a business side, that was fun, but I knew nothing about the product development. So basically I went back to school, started studying all of the chemistry, all of the, the key components that I thought would make me effective in the business development or in the product development side of things. So I'm at school at night and then I would take my notes into the lab in the day, and the lab guys hated me, just hated me. I would just sit there and ask a gazillion questions. Well, can I do this? Can I not do this? And, but what it really taught me is there's an essential need for a marketing piece as well as a product development piece, and how you marry those together to create effective products that the average consumer can say, hey, that's going to make an impact in my life. So that I did that for a long time, and then I ended up consulting with all of these different companies. I was manufacturing products, with chia, with beta-alanine, with, it was just on kind of the cutting edge of product development, and it was fantastic. I was having a blast traveling the world, working with professional athletes, with actors, I was having the time of my life. And then I got the call to start working on prenatal vitamins. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fun, prenatal vitamins, sure, whatnot. So I was doing different delivery systems for prenatal vitamins, looking at how do you solve the problem of women taking these giant horse pills and getting all of the nutrients in those into a different delivery system. So we looked at like liquids and powders. And I was doing it, and I was, okay, that was fun, but it was rather dispassionate about it until I found out I was going to be a father. And then all of a sudden it really hit home. I was like, wow, okay. So then the whole model switched, and I started looking at prenatal vitamins and recognizing that by and large they kind of suck, and especially in the world of brain development. And I'm like, okay, I might not be the most genetically gifted person. I wanted to kind of overcome any genetic deficiency I would be bringing to the equation of my daughter. So what I did was I really went back into the lab and I started studying fetal brain development. I started looking at, brain development from birth all the way to death and what that meant. And what I came up with was these reoccurring themes about polyunsaturated fatty acids and specifically choline. And there were a couple different types of choline that I really started looking at. And there was, at the time, the European Food Safety Agency had just come out with a report about their recommendations for choline, especially for pregnant and lactating women. And what they discovered in all of the research was the predominant source of choline found in breast milk is something called alpha-glycerol phosphorylcholine, or alpha-GPC. And this is a product that I'd been using for years in the gym for, some other, really for the research on power output and increasing growth hormone. So then I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a water phase phospholipid. So it's a phospholipid with the fatty acid tails removed. And if we pair this with DHA, we've got something really cool here. So then I went back into the lab and I started playing with this, and I recognized that it was not an easy thing to just put together in a blender and say, hey, here's a perfect brain supplement. So it took a couple of years of really hardcore research and development, and finally came out with the Alpha and Omega ingredient technology, which is a platform that really takes these high concentrations of DHA, polyunsaturated fatty acids for the brain, marries them with this alpha GPC, and we have this incredible synergistic blend of things that are really designed to improve brain health, work with homocysteine levels, decreasing, kind of the stress hormones that really make a big difference in people's, lives, especially as amped up as we are all the time.
Right. So that piqued my interest there, and I know I've read a lot of your information that you've put out there about building a super brain. So how did you build up from, going from the prenatal products and developing the Alpha and Omega platform to being able to kind of consult and help people develop this super brain? That term super brain really intrigues me. So I want to find out more about that.
So that's a great question. So when we started looking at this alpha GPC, it had been used as a Alzheimer's and dementia medication in Europe for years. So as people really start to experience cognitive decline, this product was used kind of whether it's intravenously or just in large quantities orally. So basically, I'm like, okay, well, wait a sec. If this is supposed to stave off some of the inevitable cognitive decline that comes either from age or from disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, anything like that, what could it do for a healthy brain? What does that actually mean for a healthy brain? And so when you start looking at the research, what you recognize as we get older, dendrite quality starts to diminish. We start to lose some of the neuroplasticity. And a lot of that can be tracked back to the polyunsaturated fatty acids and the level of acetylcholine that we have. So alpha GPC is a precursor to acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. It allows your brain to fire faster. So I always looked at it as, I don't know. I'm not sure how old you are, but I kind of grew up in the days of dial-up modem. The wonderful little sounds, and then the inevitable "you've got mail."
Yes.
So, what we really look at with this product is neurotransmission is kind of it's bandwidth, right? So it's the speed at which your synapses are firing. It's the speed at which, everything is communicating. And when you combine that with the DHA, you have this neuroplasticity. So it's a dual mode of action. You're really transmission speed, lubrication, all of the things that are really kind of, making things work. So when you add this to your daily regimen, if you're deficient in those type of things, it's like going from dial-up to broadband. That's kind of cool. So all of a sudden your brain starts firing faster. Things are great. In the average person, as we get older, our brains start to slow down a little bit. So it's kind of like being broadband back to dial-up. And if you've ever been on a computer that's got really slow bandwidth, you get used to all that speed, and then things start to slow down a little bit. And you're like, oh, okay. And what I found in all of the research and all of the focus group testing that we did with this particular product was it's a slow shift, and people start ultimately making excuses for themselves when they don't have to be. And it's like it starts maybe in your late 20s, early 30s, and you're like, oh, it's a senior moment, or oh, I'm just stressed, I can't find my keys. It's all of a sudden we start making these subtle excuses for why things are going wrong in our brain, and those excuses start to compound for years, sometimes decades, and the next thing you know, you're 50, 60, and you're in full-blown cognitive decline, and you haven't done anything about it. So part of my mission when we really look at this super brain is how do you start early on with, supplementation, lifestyle choices that are going to have a long-term impact on brain health. And part of that is recognizing that, choline is an essential aspect of brain health. There's a couple different sources of choline, but by and large, this GPC is the supreme choline donor that really helps with that neurotransmission, really helps be the precursor to acetylcholine. You can get food sources of alpha GPC, but it's predominantly like beef liver. I don't know a lot of people who are adding beef liver to their diet on a daily basis. So, one of the things that are important is making obviously great diet choices in your life for a healthy brain, but then recognizing that there's some deficiencies, and that what we can do with those deficiencies is add supplementation as a key component to really boosting brain health.
Right. So we got supplementation. We know that that's important. What are a few of the things nutritionally or even just like physically that we can do? Like was meditation helpful or like decreasing stress? Like, are there any other components outside of that supplementation that we can add in to the formula?
Absolutely. So let's talk a lot about brain health, and I think probably in the wheelhouse of what your listeners do is, I kind of break it down into the 4 pillars. The first one is exercise. Exercise is going to lead to brain-derived neurotropic factor, something that's really going to help your brain stay alive. So the more you work out, the better your brain is going to be. And that's just not from the physiological perspective of brain-derived neurotropic factor. It's just blood flow. It's the stress release. It's all the things that working out does. So you got to get in the gym, or if it's not in the gym, get out on the beach, get out on the road, do something. I like Matthew McConaughey's approach to this, and he's like, I just want to do something every day that makes me sweat. It doesn't have to be crazy. Just start. The second one is diet, right? One of the major problems with brain health and neural inflammation is what we call the omega-6 to the omega-3 ratio. You look back 150 years, 200 years, the average ratio, as we can kind of ascertain it now, was about 1 to 1. About 100 years ago, it went to like 4 to 5 to 1. Now it's about 20 to 1. All of that omega-6 can be super pro-inflammatory, and that's not just in your brain, that's all over your entire body. So this modern Western diet has become so pro-inflammatory. Most people recognize that they need to take a fish oil, but the cheaper the fish oil, the more omega-6 it has in it. So a lot of people are going to Costco and they're buying their 12-year supply of fish oil for $3. And that cheap product ultimately yields a lot of negative results because you end up with a lot of that pro-inflammatory omega-6, cholesterol, saturated fat, all the things that are bad for your brain and the rest of your body. So really it's when we look at diet, we have to start looking at the omega-6 to the omega-3 ratio, getting rid of the saturated fats, eating clean. That's bottom line. And my rule of thumb, being a father, and a nutritionist, is if I can't say it, I'm not going to put it in my body. That's a good starting point. Getting rid of the processed foods. Sugar is absolutely the enemy. That's my big thing. And yeah, I love sugar. Who doesn't? It's, if you put a chocolate cake in front of me, I'm going to eat it. But, it's the more sugar that we take in, the more that our body is going to be utilizing that for fuel instead of, fat. And this is obviously systemic of the whole keto concept. And I think obviously smart dieting too. I always fall back to this story. And this was about 10 years ago where my best friend decides he wants to get married. And then right after he proposes to his girlfriend, she says yes. He's like, I need to get in shape for the wedding. So I'm like, okay, I'll come pick you up. We'll go to the gym. Let's get you on a workout program. I show up to his house in the morning, and he's sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching ESPN with a plate of bacon and cheese. And this is 10 minutes before we're supposed to be at the gym. And I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? And his only response is, well, it's on the Atkins diet. So a large part of what dieting means is fully understanding what these diet concepts are and making rational decisions. Just because a diet says eating bacon and cheese is within the scope of the diet doesn't make it healthy. So then we get into supplementation, and I think supplementation is the third pillar of all of that, and we can talk a little bit more. But the mental aspect of really, this is what I really call kind of the biggest pillar, because we are so wired in. We're so just constantly on. Basically, it's like how many people wake up in the morning, the first thing that they do is go to their phone. They're checking social media. They're checking their email. Our biorhythms are just completely whacked out. We're not taking that necessary time for ourselves, which getting up in the morning, doing some meditation, doing something that's specifically for you before you jump into that high stress, high pace, aspect of life. And I think the other part of that too is the phone. Really, it's we're waking up in the morning with it. We're going to bed with it. Put that thing in a charger in a different room, unless you're a doctor that needs to be on call or there's an absolute necessary reason to have that phone by your bed, get it out of the room. It's, allow yourself to get into a natural state of sleep. I don't know how many people I talk to say they wake up in the middle of the night to check Facebook.
Oh my God.
We can't imagine what this is doing to us on a long timeline. And we're starting to see some of the inklings of what's happening to people now. You compound this 10, 15 years, and we're all going to be basket cases.
Yeah, and something else that I noticed with my clients is that not only are they jumping on their phone first thing in the morning, but it's like their day starts off at a dead sprint, and then they are running behind, and they're stressed out the entire rest of the day. And I'm like, how about we go to bed 30 minutes earlier and you wake up 30 minutes earlier and you've got that buffer to start your day. You can kind of have a relaxed pace. And, how about that concept? And like, you know what? I never thought of that. And then they start doing it. I'm like, just try it for a week. 30 minutes earlier to bed, 30 minutes earlier to get up. You've got a little buffer and have a little bit of you time to start the day. And they're like, this is amazing. So it's so important,
I couldn't agree more. And one of the scientific things that we're really seeing, which is kind of neat, is you see all the neurofeedback monitors, right? I think Muse has one, but you're starting to see technology allow us to kind of point out some deficiencies. Some of those neurofeedback monitors that show the difference between like the alpha waves and the theta waves and things like that, it's like people are just amped up all day long. They don't have that ability to kind of separate out their brain waves, relax. The alpha waves, which are those kind of meditation waves, are things that really allow us to start the day at a much calmer, place where we're not, our cortisol levels aren't, cranked through the roof. We're not just amped up. And I look at, just go to Starbucks. It's how many people are in line for their, Venti quadruple shot macchiato, 700 calorie, 50 grams of sugar. That's how I need to start my day. If every day starts like that, then just the inflammatory response, what we're doing to our bodies, is ultimately just going to lead to disaster.
So I want to pivot just a little bit. I'm going to take full advantage of having an expert like you. And we're going to get a little bit personal to me. Now, my wife's family, Alzheimer's runs in her family, and her mom has Alzheimer's and starting to decline pretty rapidly right now. So, my wife,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, my wife is very concerned with this, obviously, and she's in full gung ho. Like, how do I prevent this for me, and then how do we prevent our kids? Like, what can we do for our children that are growing up right now? So, first, like, if you were going to consult with my wife, she's 41, she works out, she's following a ketogenic diet. We switched to that once we started, we're going to go as low sugar as possible. But what can she be doing? Like, what would you recommend as far as like a stress reduction regimen, or obviously with your product with the alpha GPC and the omega 3s, like what would you specifically say, like she needs to be doing this for sure to really combat her potential for having Alzheimer's?
It's a great question. So the first thing that I always do is I at one point in my life I wanted to be a journalist. I had visions of being Woodward and Bernstein, so I kind of always approach things from that who, what, where, when, why, how concept. One of the biggest issues in the supplement industry is not just all of the elements of that supplement, the who, how's it made, where's it made, or all that, but it's the why are we taking it. And when you ask that question, most people are like, oh, because the internet told me to, or my mailman said this was the greatest supplement ever. So one of the things that I always do is say, if you're going to get into a supplement regimen, work with a great doctor, a great naturopathic physician, integrative physician who understands the balance of pharmaceutical and nutraceutical and what that can mean. A lot of times there's no one size fits all. And I think the problem in the supplement industry is you get a lot of people who are like, commercialization or capitalism is the driving force. Like, this is the one only supplement you'll ever need. Not necessarily true. If she's got a history of Alzheimer's, that could be environmental. It could be, just the diet that her family was on. It could be a lot of different factors. And so there's no real way to say, this is why, but what we can do is say, let's look at some blood work. Let's see where you're at, and then we can kind of customize some supplement programs to go around that. My first thing, though, is choline and omega 3s. By and large, the FDA, the WHO, the European Food Safety Agency all indicate that most people are deficient in these. So when you look at a couple of the catalysts for cognitive decline, you see that polyunsaturated fatty acids, omega indexes are low. The omega 6 to the omega 3 ratio is completely out of whack. And then the cholerogenic precursors to acetylcholine, which is, comes in the form of phospholipids like alpha GPC, usually are deficient. So if you start addressing the average deficiencies, and we don't know if your wife's falls into that average, but let's assume that she does. If you start addressing those, then you can really start to combat a lot of the issues that lead to cognitive decline. A long time ago, I believe it was called the Nun Study, and it was a group of nuns that were studied in a convent in France, and what they determined was that they had a really low rate of cognitive decline. One of the interesting things about these nuns is they had a very Mediterranean diet, a lot of nuts, fish, olive oils types of things, no processed foods. Fresh vegetables from the garden that they worked in every single day. So you had physical activity. I guess the key component of this is that the nuns were required to journal every single day. And that's how they were actually in the study able to determine the level of cognitive decline, because they could see through the writing, what was happening. what they found is because of cognitive decline was so low, they attributed it to the fact that they were using their brains all the time. They were forced to actually engage their brains with these writing activities. So as we look at supplementation, one of the other key components of that is just keeping your brain active. Don't turn on the TV. We look at just walk around and you see how many people are just plugged into their phones. We're not utilizing our brains anymore. Do the crossword puzzle on a piece of paper. It's amazing how just that, the fact of writing something is so engaging for your brain. There was a great book that came out, I think it was about 20 years ago. It was called Neurobics, and it was all of these weird things that you could do to keep your brain, activated. Brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, something that really engages parts of your brain that you don't actually think about. Routine is the thing that kills our brain. When we start to get into a routine where we don't have to think about things, those neural pathways start to really just kind of die away. So, take a different route to work every day. Really engage yourself to utilize parts of your brain that are different. One of the things that I always say is don't get out of bed in the morning if it's dark and try to get to the bathroom while it's dark. So you don't actually utilize the visual components of your brain. You have to activate your memory to realize what path do I have to take to get to where I need to go. So these are all just small things. And that neurobics book is great. There's a lot of other brain health books that have come out. One of the things, sex. It's a huge one.
Doctor's orders.
When we look at brain health, you cannot separate sex and brain health. It is essential. And in fact, one of the things that I always tell people, it's especially for men, first thing in the morning. It's your testosterone levels are higher. You're not stressed out. Your partner's usually not stressed out from the day. So it's a great way to start your day off. You get that flood of brain happy chemicals. And the reality is if you get to work and you have the worst board meeting ever, who cares? Look at how you started your day. If you start your day off on a bad note, it all goes downhill from there. If you started off on that, you're like, you know what? My boss yelled at me. My caramel macchiato was cold by the time I got it. Life is pretty, it's all about perspective, right?
That is awesome. And I swear that I did not pay Dr. Evan to say that. But I feel like the audience just went wild. They're like, yes, that's incredible. So what's your opinion about the online sites that are the Brain Game online? There's a lot of people you can subscribe and pay to these things. Is that similar to what they do in the book?
I think that technology obviously has given us an opportunity to enjoy some of those brain games. I think Lumosity and all of those are great. Anything that keeps you engaged mentally and doesn't basically get you out of that rut of just shutting your brain off. And let's look a little bit at the typical day, the typical American days. You get up, you get your cup of coffee, you go to work, you do the same repetitive thing, and I'm saying typical. So some people obviously are not the same, but, maybe you sit in a cubicle, maybe you're a teacher, maybe whatever it is that you do. You get home from work, you're probably exhausted, you sit on the couch for a little bit, you watch some TV, maybe you have a healthy dinner, maybe you don't. Maybe you watch a little bit more TV, but your life becomes so routine. So some of those simple acts of just sitting on the couch watching TV are brain death, in my opinion. If you're going to watch TV, make sure you're doing it at the gym while you're on a Stairmaster. Make sure, don't make that the central focus of your life. It's a peripheral aspect of what it is that you're doing, great, but get out of the habit of just shutting your brain off. And working out is going to help your brain. You join a book club, do anything, just the social aspect alone, the more that you engage your brain, the more that you're forced to communicate with people and have those kind of interpersonal relationships, the healthier everything upstairs is going to be.
So what about our kids? As a parent, and I'm sure you're this way too, you want to give your kid an advantage. And what I've been doing is I take a lot of fish oil, and I've actually had my omega-3 to 6 ratio tested before, and it was good. They actually complimented me, asked me what I was doing when I got the blood work back. And
nice.
So I give my kids fish oil, and I don't call it fish oil. I call it vitamins because I know if I call it fish oil, there's no way in hell they're going to eat it. But I give them extra TV time. I give them extra 15 minutes of TV time if they do their fish oil every day. But I just guessed. I'm like, well, that seems like it would be a good thing to do to keep their omega-3 levels up. But what else can we be doing for our children to give them sort of a brain health nutritional advantage?
That's another great question. And I think like the Alpha and Omega platform is great for kids. The reality is that, the ratios in this Alpha and Omega, I created using the ratios of DHA to EPA found in breast milk and the type of choline found in breast milk. So you look at how our brains develop, especially in the first year of life when most people are consuming breast milk, and you see this exponential growth of brain development. Now, all of a sudden we stop taking those things that have, that in some way lead to this growth of brain development. So I kind of like, well, why not take this all the days of our lives? So getting your kids on a great, omega supplement with choline, the Alpha and Omega, I think is fantastic. And again, like Omax Health has a great product for that. But TV time, it's inevitable, right? But I think there was a statistic that came out recently that said that the average American watches has 8 hours of screen time a day. That's crazy. When I was a kid, like my parents did not want to see me. It's like, go out and play, burn yourself out, come home for dinner, take a shower, go to bed. We've changed that. The dynamic has changed where kids are, yeah, and it's inevitable, right? I feel guilty. Sometimes I need to be on a phone call. Sometimes, it's like, so I give my daughter the iPad and I feel guilty about it. Yep. I think the trick is to always balance it. Brain development in a lot of ways is tied to physical activity. So the more physical activity or the more physical, your kids are being, I think the better off they're going to be. If you're going to give them screen time, make it games. Shut the YouTube off. I think PBS has an incredible platform of games for kids that can be very educational. Great. There's some great videos out there, but just the more that they actually have to think if they're going to be in front of the screen, the better off they're going to be. Yeah,
I think that's critical, that balance that you talked about. I've actually started making my children, like we try to limit them to 30 to 60 minutes total screen time a day. And if they want more, they have to go and exercise to earn it, or they have to do their healthy habits to earn that. So that balance, it's like you said, it's really easy to jump on. I've got to do a podcast interview here. Distract yourself with the iPad, but achieving that balance, and I think that's the real key message there. Now, you've mentioned the Alpha and Omega platform a couple of times, so give us the specifics. Like, what exactly is that? How do we get connected to that? How do we check out these products that you've been mentioning?
So the Alpha and Omega ingredient technology, and that's the branded ingredient technology that I created, is available through a couple different branded products. Omax Health, which you can find, I think it's omaxhealth.com, carries that particular product. And what it is it's a specific ratio of high concentrate omegas, polyunsaturated fatty acids, with the alpha GPC. A real quick and dirty history on fish oil, and dirty is kind of going to be a pun on this one, but most fish oil is derived from anchovies and sardines caught off the coast of like Chile and Peru. From there, they're taken to a factory and they're literally just pressed into like fish meal and oil. That oil is called 1812 or crude oil, and that 1812 is representative of the EPA and DHA concentrations for a total of about 30% omegas. The rest is that pro-inflammatory omega-6, the cholesterol, the saturated fat, all of the bad fats, the stuff that we don't really want. Now, there are some companies that will concentrate that up or remove some of that bad fat to to percentages of like 50 or 60. And that's good, but it's not great. And when I look at what I want to take for myself, what I want to give to my daughter, what I recommend to friends and family, if it's going to be a supplement, it has to be great. So the Alpha and Omega is concentrations of 80% or higher, where we've been able to really take out as much of that bad stuff as possible. One of the other key components that I'm really, one of my platforms is ocean health, right? It's, I do love fish oil, and what we're doing to our oceans is just a travesty. Until we're able to recognize all of the pollutants, the plastics, the radiation fallout from Fukushima, all of these things, it's essential to really get a great fish oil that's processed in a way that removes a lot of those harsh chemicals, those toxins, those environmental issues. So that's what Alpha and Omega is. And we take that really high concentrate DHA, and we marry it with the alpha GPC. So what you have is this unique synergistic blend of products that have a holistic approach to general health and wellness. So DHA is great for the brain, for the eyes. You've got general inflammation resolution. There's a whole slew of things that it's fantastic for, cardiovascular health. So that's great. Now, when we look at GPC, there's a ton of stuff that this thing does, lowering C-reactive protein and homocysteine levels, which are things that, those are, if you're looking to lose weight, that butt and gut kind of fat, when you've got extra stress, cortisol, all of that is going to really, kind of force you to hold on to that extra fat in some of those trouble areas. Power output, memory, focus, concentration, balance, natural energy. If your ideal time to go to the gym is after work, and you've just had a rough day, the first thing to go is gym time because you're like, I'm exhausted. I just want to go home and sit on the couch. So by, really creating that, mental energy, you have a little bit more oomph to push through the day, get to the gym, get your workout in. So really I designed this product to kind of be a tip of the spear for health and wellness. It's not a catch-all. It's not going to do everything. But when I look at a lot of the issues that people are suffering from today, this construct really helps address as many as I could without making it, the biggest pill in the world.
Yeah. What I really like is hearing your passion about this product, because the supplement industry is shady, and this, like, there's a lot of just really confusing, bad information out there. And I love hearing somebody like you that wants to put this product in their body, in your child's body, in your friend's body, and you are passionate about being healthy yourself, and that's why you're doing this, to help yourself and help other people get healthier. And that's why the product's going out there, and not like we want to make $1 billion off this hot fish oil product. Because I remember, years and years and years ago, I was really, promoting the omega-3s and things like that, but then people started finding like high mercury levels in their fish oil and stuff like that, and it freaked people out. So people are very supplement phobic. So if somebody's just going through, let's use like an omega supplement, like what constitutes, like you mentioned like the sourcing and the ratios, but like maybe even just like price level. Like you said, if you're paying $3 a bottle for a 10-year supply, probably not the best quality. What are some filters that somebody could use if they're shopping for supplements, whether it's good quality or not?
Price is always going to be one of the leading factors. But as you said, there's a lot of shady stuff that takes place in the supplement industry. So you might get a brand marketer who bought a really cheap fish oil and wants to position it as something a lot more expensive. So then they end up charging a lot more than it really is. Again, I always come back to the idea that if you're working with a great healthcare practitioner, they're going to be the ones that are going to help you source the appropriate supplements for you. I think it's absolutely important to recognize where your deficiencies are. If you're looking at your blood work and your blood work says something, you might not need a specific supplement. And that's one of the issues that we really find today, is that people are so over-supplemented, if that's a word. I think the joke is with a lot of European countries is that Americans have the most expensive pee out there, because all we're doing is just taking supplements, and maybe they work, maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, if we're not actually using supplements to treat specific conditions within each person, then we're probably just wasting money. So, but back to your question, is price is a good one. I think, the company behind it, a lot of these just like fly-by-night internet companies, you're probably going to find bad supplements. But if you look at, companies that have the longevity in the market, just spend some time researching it, find out, if it looks cheap, chances are it is cheap.
Yeah. That's the same way I feel about it. And we just have to be, informed consumers. That's the key thing, is do your research before you put it in your body. Don't just trust somebody because it has a cool looking dude on the label with big muscles or something like that.
Exactly. Or they managed to wrangle up a couple bucks to get a good celebrity spokesperson. It's, it really is. I think it requires a degree of skepticism when you get into supplements. It's just take a step back. The minimum wage employee at the vitamin shop is probably not going to be the best person to guide you on your supplement journey. It's what do they know and what do they know about you? So it's like, know yourself first, know what you need, and then you can address what you need to take through a supplement.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, listeners, Johnny from the Vitamin Shop, probably not an expert. Just saying.
Exactly. Sorry, Johnny.
Sorry, Johnny. Ruined your live stream. So I know that people are going to have a lot of questions about this, because this is a really hot button topic, with brain health, with all the stuff going on with professional football right now, and people are really investing in this topic. So how can people connect with you and maybe ask questions, follow you on social media? What's the best way to follow your story?
Yeah, Evan DeMarco on Facebook. You can also find me at Evan DeMarco 47 on Instagram. LinkedIn. You can definitely find me all over the place, and I'm more than willing to answer questions to help anyone out on their journey. So,
Awesome. And I'll link to those in the show notes and in the blog for this episode. Now, I want to be respectful of your time, but I have one more question for you. I like to give somebody that's listening an action step to take within the next 24 hours. So let's say that somebody's listening, and now after hearing our conversation, they're super motivated about improving their brain health or improving their chances of fighting off brain disease and things like that. What would be the first step, that first action step that you would recommend for somebody in that situation?
I think the first thing that I would really recommend is going to come back to something that you said earlier, is take 30 minutes at the beginning of every day for yourself. Start your day off right. And whether that's sex, whether that's meditation, whether that's a combination of both, put your phone in a different room and don't look at it until you've actually had time to, for yourself. If you need to get up and have a cup of coffee, if you want to get up and spend some time with your significant other or yourself, if you're so inclined, whatever it is, take that 30 minutes to start your day off right. Because I guarantee that if you start your day off, just jacked in, stressed out, your boss sent you that email, whatever, you're just going to get into a pattern of a negative pattern, and that's ultimately going to lead to some cognitive decline. So that first 30 minutes for you is just going to set the stage for better brain for life. And then when you start incorporating some of these small tweaks, these small corrections, all of those make a big difference, and it's it's start your day off right, and good things will happen after that.
Yeah, I think that we just created my next course called the 30-minute daily sex and meditation boot camp. So yeah. I'll give you a cut of that product once I get it on the market.
Sounds good. We'll get together and lecture on it.
Well, it'll be a hot one. So, Dr. Evan, I am just psyched that you were able to bring your knowledge and your expertise to this podcast, because what I look for in a guest, an ideal guest, can bring us actionable steps, but also what I call tools to add to our transformation toolbox. And brain health is super important. Understanding the omega-3s and the acetylcholine and all that stuff, that's so important. So I feel like you've really given us some things to think about and take action upon. So I just want to say thank you for investing time in my audience and in the Million Pound Mission.
No, thank you, man. I love what you're doing. It's, we've got to take control of our health, and you're an inspiration. So this has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed this.
I appreciate you, man. And what you're doing is making a difference. I want you to know that. So it's going to make an impact on my audience and way beyond. So speaking of my audience, everybody out there listening in, as I always do, I want you to take at least one key tip and take action on that, whether it's checking out Evan's products, whether it's checking out, do some research on omega-3s or choline, or maybe it's just taking that 30 minutes to have some sex the first thing in the morning. All right, that's up to you, but I know what I would vote for. But we as always, I want to make sure that you are taking action. So we try to be entertaining on the podcast, and we usually achieve that goal, but I want you to take that entertainment and apply it to your life to get better results. And that, my friends, is how we get out there. That's how we own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Hey, I've got one quick question before you take off, everybody. Are you ready to donate some weight loss to the Million Pound Mission? I thought so. So I've got a quick 2-step process to make that happen, my friends. First, just head on over to the millionpoundmission.com website, millionpoundmission.com, and grab a free copy of my #1 tool, the Transformation Battle Plan Workbook. Now, this will help you set up your battle plan for the next 28 days of your transformation process. Now, once you complete your 28 days, then come back to the website, millionpoundmission.com, and donate your weight loss and contribute to our Million Pound Mission. So let's do this.